Edward Woodward is back as the Equalizer. Yes, the coat-wearing... Hang on. It's not 1980s. That's a... Denzel Washington. Denzel! Hello, it's Adam here again with another quick instant movie review. It's hot, it's daytime, I'm wearing a jumper in a car with no window cranked, so this is going to be fast. Last night I saw The Equalizer 3. This is the third film and the last film in the Equalizer trilogy based on the 1980s TV show, but not really. Directed by not by Edward Woodward, who was in the original show, but by Antoine Fuqua, who has done the other three films and has also worked with Denzel before on The Magnificent Seven and also on Training Days, in which Denzel won his Academy Award. It's getting so hot in here I can't begin to tell you. Not Edward, he's coming up. Denzel once again stars as Robert McCall. He is an ex-CIA agent who is now doing things for people. And when we first find Robert, he is doing one of his jobs, but things don't necessarily go quite so well. And then he ends up finding himself in Sicily, in Italy, where he decides that if he's going to, finally retire and put it all behind him, this is not a bad place to be. So he sort of starts to think, I'm going to start getting used to all the traditions, finding out that maybe drinking tea is a lady's drink, and if you're going to be in Sicily, you need to be drinking a coffee. But he does discover that there's some nasty people that want to turn the little town that he's in into a commercial entity. So this nasty group of people start to threaten all the townspeople, start setting fire to stuff, start kicking people, all the rest of it, in order for them to gain commercial control over this little province in Italy. So these particular people, unfortunately, are the Camerata, which are basically the mafia. So it's going to be Robert McCall, aka Denzel Washington, against the mafia. Ooh. He'd be setting his watch to kill those bad guys. So if you've seen the other two Equalizer films, you'll realise that these are very stylized action pieces. So, I think when you look back at the Equalizer and the Equalizer 2, you're sort of sitting in this kind of cool sort of John Wickian territory, and putting Denzel Washington into this mix is interesting because you don't really expect Denzel to be doing these, I guess, quite graphic action sequences. The whole hardware store thing. In the first film, it was all hammers and nails and all the things. It's like, oh, geez, Denzel is like really bringing it. And then, in the second one, you've got the big typhoon on the top of the roof with Pedro Pascal with no moustache. Like, what's with that? And now you've got this one that really has Denzel in the heart and soul of it. So the interesting part about this film, I suppose, is that you might be going in expecting a massive action fest. And I think it's really important that you go back and maybe watch the other Equalizer films before you go and see this one, because you realise that a lot of them are a character study into this guy, Robert McCall, and particularly in this one because we're getting to the end of his tenure as this kind of he's basically like a Jack Reacher, not even a John Reacher, a Jack Reacher. That he's a wandering soul that just happens to be helping random people and getting himself and using his certain set of skills to assist those people to get to a goal, which seems very humane by doing inhumane things to nasty people. So he's that kind of a person. So it's not always going to be smash him, hit. But when it does happen, it's pretty brutal. And the interesting thing about this film on reflection is that a lot of the action sequences that occur, you're sort of seeing the aftermath of things that have happened rather than seeing Denzel actually doing a lot of it. I mean, the bloke is 68 years old. So it's quite interesting the way that Antoine Fuqua has directed this film. He is not afraid of showing away from graphic, violent details, but more the aftermath of those graphic, violent details and events. If anyone could hear that, it was my tummy just going for a rumble. So it's hot, I'm hungry, I'm wearing a jumper in a car with no window cranked. I'm gonna keep going. So from that point of view, The Equalizer 3 is kind of like an older guy who's trying to get peace that isn't, that his certain set of skills isn't going to allow him to find that peace easily. You know, so you got a lot of this. I'm not going to say Jerry action because it's not quite Jerry action. You know, it's only that our character is a little bit mortally wounded that we have to slow things down a little bit. So it's an interesting choice of direction by the director and by Denzel. And the one thing that I will say about Denzel is that no matter what it is, he is completely workshopping every single movement. Nothing that he does is by accident. Everything seems very calculated, very thought out, and just very workshopped. Whether it be holding onto a cane, or whether it be moving a chair, or whether it be where he places his teaspoon. And I know that his character has some serious routines that he likes to keep and methods that he likes to be very particular in, almost on the point of having Asperger's, I suppose. But Denzel really brings it. He really focuses on the character and all those little idiosyncrasies that he has. So for that alone is really, really smart. It's more of an acting workshop than a full-on action fest. So from that point of view, it's very interesting. If you're going in expecting extreme action all the time, propulsing action to keep moving everything forward like a John Wick film, you're not going to get it in this film. It's not that style of film. But when it's sinister, it is sinister. When it's thoughtful, it's very thoughtful. But it is a story that I feel like we've seen a lot, and I feel like nothing except for Denzel's character is very well flushed out. The baddies are very first-based. The people that he is having these relationships with to kind of ground him seem very, you're here, not a lot of backstory. So there's not a huge amount of gravitas outside of Robert McCall's character. Even Dakota Fanning, who makes a reappearance in another Denzel film, first one together since Man on Fire. Her character is just a little bit kind of there, and that storyline is just sort of subsequential to things. So, from a story point of view, it's kind of just there. We're more there to see Denzel doing his acting, doing his character, and bringing, I suppose it's like his character, Robert McCall, to full circle. I mean, it was fine. This is a very solid 6.5 to 7 out of 10. I wouldn't venture any further into the beyond 7. I just feel like it kind of felt quite episodic. It felt like it's kind of something we could have watched on a television show. But the acting and the direction by Antoine Fuqua kind of puts it up to that next level. So from that point of view, that's where we have the differentiation. So there you go. One of us was going to keel over because of heat. I didn't think it was going to be my phone, but that's why I've had to drive around for half an hour to try and cool it down. Anyway, there you go. 6.5 out of 10 for The Equalizer. Thanks, Denzel. Thanks, Antoine Fuqua.